Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Andy back again from the underground. Today we're taking a look at the little brother of the VTS, the Bulletproof Fitness VTS Lite. With these two units, you can create your own Smith machine on your existing power rack or squat stand. This video is going to be looking at the VTS Lite as well as talking about it in comparison to the VTS. My VTS Lite is going to go on my Rogue RM6 monster rack, and if you haven't seen my video on the VTS, it's going to be linked in the description down below. I am going to show you the unboxing, the assembly, and a little bit of it in use, so let's dive right into it. I ordered the VTS Lite a few weeks before I was about to get my VTS in. I was curious on how each VTS performed, and so far, both are pretty similar to each other. The cost of the VTS Lite was right around $680 shipped to my door. I opted to wait a little bit longer for my VTS Lite to get the hook tips in with it. However, the hook tips shipped after I got my VTS Lite in. Not an issue for me as I have hook tips from my VTS if necessary. I informed Bulletproof of the missing hook tips and they started an order for me that very same day. The hooks are exactly the same as the VTS in terms of size and adjustability. They are working on a new VTS hook latch system. And as you can see from the unboxing, my VTS Lite had a nice little scratch on the side of the trolley, and it's not too big of an issue for me, but it's just something to take note of. The finish is a black powder coat, but more on the lighter side. It is made overseas, and the VTS Lite feels sturdy in hand, and I think it's going to hold up fine over time, but again, that scratch is kind of annoying. The VTS Lite can be installed with the removal of the two rollers on the back, so you don't have to slide it over and upright like I did with my VTS. You'll see that I'm going to be using a Sornex Bulldog pad to hold my VTS Lite up while I install the rollers into the unit once again. Be careful when using this method because the rollers have a few moving pieces in each of them. So when you see me take out the rollers, they have a lot of parts that move. And make sure you keep your hands on the bearings and the washers so it doesn't fall apart. In my experience, setting it up and the roller fell out a few times and I underestimated it staying together the whole time, so just be aware of that. I noticed for the Lite, the top roller was much harder to adjust and get aligned with the holes than the bottom roller. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because the frame of the VTS Lite is a little bit tighter on the top side of it. But after you get the rollers screwed on and in, don't tighten it right away. Use the set screws in the back of the rollers to get your VTS Lite trolley aligned, and then tighten the screws for the rollers as needed. Again, everybody's rack is going to be a little bit different. Again, mine is the Rogue RM6, and it did take a little bit of adjustability to get the right smoothness that I wanted from my VTS Lite. Versus the VTS, the Lite has a lot less adjustability in general when it comes to setting up the rollers. I do appreciate the simplicity and the very little tinkering compared to the VTS that the VTS Lite has. So overall, the Lite setup was a lot faster than the VTS. Initially, I mounted my VTS Lite onto the front uprights of my Rogue RM6 for this video. However, since filming the setup and the usage, I actually moved the VTS Lite to the inside of the rack so I can continue to use my Rogue Monster Slinger and trolley arms as I normally do. It's a little bit easier to put the VTS out of the way when not in use for the inside part of your rack, and it feels a little bit more stable. I'll generally put it near the top of the uprights with the bar still attached and then just have it hooked into a specific hole. And just getting into the bars that I start using for my VTS Lite, the first bar I tried to use that I don't use that much was the Kabuki Columbia bar, and that didn't work for me just because the barbell shaft was too short and the distance between the VTS Lite trolleys was too much. So I actually opted to use the 20 kilogram competition version of the Rogue Ohio Power Bar, and it actually works really well. And just getting back to the Kabuki Columbia bar, yes, it is a meme bar, I understand that, so please leave your memes in the comments down below. It's probably going to be fine to use with your VTS Lite if you have a rack such as like the Rep PR 5000 or racks with a slimmer profile. It really depends a lot of the overseas racks that you see with 1-inch holes, they do have a slimmer profile than these American-made racks such as Sornex and Rogue. And to find out which bars are going to fit on your VTS and your VTS Lite, it's going to be dependent on the distance of your VTS trolleys. You'll have to measure the bar shaft length and make sure it's long enough for either of your VTSs. I've tested the Rogue Ohio Power Bar and the Westside 2.0 bar, and they both fit really well on the VTS Lite. And just from testing both the VTS and the Lite, it seems like the Lite is more forgiving when it comes to different bars. And I think that has to do with the clamp design being a little bit different. The VTS Lite clamps are the same size, where on the VTS, the clamp has a small and large clamp. And just remember, one of the big differences between the VTS and the VTS Lite is that the VTS Lite is intended to be used with both trolleys at the same time. So generally it's going to need a full bar or specialty bar that you might have. Getting into the specs of the trolley itself, for the VTS Lite, the trolley sticks out from the upright 8.5 inches in length, and from the back side it is about 2.5 inches in length. So if you need any measurements, just leave them in the comments down below and I can get those measurements for you. But those are the measurements I took when I set up my VTS Lite. I want to start talking about the trolley system in general. So for the VTS Lite, the trolleys are 15 pounds each. So with a 45-pound bar, it's going to start at 75 pounds. For the normal VTS, their trolleys are a little bit heavier at 24 pounds each. So with a 45-pound bar, it's going to start at 93 pounds. The Lite only takes barbells and can't use the weight horn or ISO handle attachments, and only has 4 rollers. The VTS can take barbells, weight horns, the ISO handles, and it has 8 rollers with more adjustabilities and set screws, and a lot more tinkering to come with it. The clamps on the VTS versus the Lite are a little bit different as well. As you can see, I was talking about it earlier, the VTS has 2 different sizes on the bar clamp, whereas the Lite version has 2 of the same size bar clamps. And I think it's easier to adjust the bar clamps on the VTS Lite for this reason, just because they are the same size. So once you set one clamp, you already know the size of the other one. The overall size of the VTS Lite compared to the VTS, it's actually pretty similar. So you can see that both trolley systems are pretty big. And if you put them side by side, the size of them is very comparable. I don't know the exact measurements offhand, but the trolleys are very close to each other in size. And as you can see here, I set up some bands on the VTS Lite so it can have some counterweight, so it mimics more of a traditional Smith machine in use, and it actually helps out a lot. The way I have it set up, it doesn't move, and you can see that big old scratch again that came with it. But yeah, this is how I have my VTS Lite set up. And while we're talking about the differences between the VTS and the VTS Lite, again, the biggest thing is the setup. For the VTS, you have to put it over your upright, which is kind of annoying for most people because a lot of people already have their rack set up. And for the Lite, you could just take out the 2 rollers in the back and get it put on. And the reason why you have to put the VTS over the upright, because it's a fully welded cage and it can't come apart easily. And the big question everybody's wondering, should you get the VTS or the VTS Lite? Because of the price, the VTS is out of a lot of people's budgets. However, the VTS Lite is very competitive for the functionality of using it like a Smith machine. If you only want the Smith machine function, I would suggest going with the Lite. However, if you want more attachments in the future, the use of the ISO handles and the weight horns for more variety, and the Smith machine function, then I'd go with the Big Brother VTS. Personally, for me, I'm probably going to stick with the VTS just for these reasons. I really like the ISO handles attachment that come with the VTS, as it's been a staple for me in terms of pressing movements such as incline chest press, flat chest press. They just feel really nice in hand. And I think the VTS is just going to be a little bit better of a buy in the future, just because of the attachments that have already been teased. And now let's get into the lifts of the VTS Lite. Starting off first, we have the VTS Lite Smith Squat. As you can see here, I am using the VTS Lite from the front and the back position of the squat, so you can kind of see how it functions. I think it's easier to face towards the rack to unrack it, but that's just my personal preference, as I've always kind of done that. And now I'm just going to be setting it up into getting it into a bench press position. And as you can see here, the counterweight bands are really helpful in controlling the trolleys and going up and down on the upright. And as you can see here, very smooth, flat bench press with the VTS Lite. The next movement I'm going to be showing you is the calf raise. This was one I just like doing, especially with the VTS and the VTS Lite. This is a fantastic movement for this setup, just because you don't have to worry about stability and moving around. The next movement that I'm going to show you is a split squat. This surprisingly is going to be a lot harder to set up for most people, as I'm not sure where a lot of people can put their rollers. I have this roller on like an offset arm attachment, and most people aren't going to have that because it is definitely not worth it, if I'm being honest myself. And then the next movement that I'm going to be showing you is going to be a classic for the Smith machine, the bent over row. This is a really smooth row. I like it a lot. However, it is a little bit more difficult to latch just because of how the movement is, as you can see here. And then the last movement I'm going to be showing you is the deadlift. Very self-explanatory. And if you made it this far in the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.